12:02, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Brewster has said he's a bit busy with his voting responsibilities, but we'll go through and we'll have a roll call. And one thing that I put on here is a roll call, and in addition to saying your name, I'm recording this, we're having an effort to create a vision down the road of what we do for the Ohio River Recreation Trail. And so we're going to put David on the spot first, and if you could just say who you are and what your vision is for the Ohio River Recreation Trail.
David Rudder, OKI. My vision is that we have a guide that stretches from Pittsburgh to Cairo and incorporates all of the tributaries into that, with people being able to select a river trail and be able to highlight just those points.
Sounds great. We have Andrea next.
I'm Andrea Ireland. I'm with the National Park Service Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program. And I think, rephrase the question. What is it again?
The vision for the Ohio River Recreation Trail.
I think the vision for the Ohio River Recreation Trail is bringing to light more opportunities for outdoor recreation and engaging the communities of the Ohio River, at least from Portsmouth to, what's our other endpoint? I'm getting all confused. West Point.
Thank you. How about Jack?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jack Sutton from sunny Southeast Indiana. Andrew, we had a bunch of wind in our neighborhood yesterday, so I don't know how David was kayaking, but we were hunkered down, staying away from the flying limbs down here.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the vision for the Ohio River Recreation Trail should be that it's the link for connecting people to water, wildlife, and outdoor adventure.
Wow.
All right. Thank you. How about David Hudson? David, are you there? You're on mute.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay, yeah. My vision for the trail is to, give us a tool where we can tie all these fabulous river towns together. In my trip last year down with the Voyager canoes, I was thoroughly amazed at the hospitality and just all the neat places up and down the river that in a powerboat I'd never even paid any attention to. So that's what I would like to see with it.
All right, thank you. Sylvia.
Hi there. My name is Sylvia. I'm a volunteer with the River City Paddle Sports here in Louisville. I envision the Ohio River Recreational Trail to be a mainstay and attraction for people who live in this region and also for people who are visiting this region.
All right, Chris.
Hi, I'm eating lunch, so I had my video off. Anyway, glad to see everyone. So I envision the trails offering opportunities for our citizens to really engage in recreational activities more easily, more conveniently, more safely. But then that coincides with building supporters for the ecological and the natural resources in the area, because I think the audience really kind of is wanting the same. So those bikers and hikers and paddlers tend to be good environmentalists as well. So I think it generates support for the ecological side of things as well as the recreational side of things.
We have Jeff O'Brien.
Hey all, Jeff O'Brien. I'm the Director of Develop Louisville for Louisville Metro Government. And, I think the Ohio River is this community was founded on, I think it's just one of those under-realized assets of the community and really linking us back to nature. So It's a big part of our built environment, has a big impact on our built environment, which is what I do here in Louisville, for Louisville Metro government.
We just want to give a shout out for Jeff because it's quite amazing. Metro Louisville government now is trying to raise $10 million to build a brand new Ohio River, what's called the Shawnee Outdoor Learning Center in Western Louisville, in Shawnee Park. It's just so exciting. And thanks for being on the phone call, Jeff. We have two other folks here who I don't know who they are. It says iPhone guest. And then there's another one who has just a 513 area code number. And while we're waiting for them, Francis just joined us. And Francis, what we're doing is introducing ourselves and what's our vision for the Ohio River Trail.
David, good morning. It's Jerry Schulte. I'm the 513 Exchange.
Hi, Jerry.
How you doing?
Good.
All right. So you're talking about the vision for the Ohio River Recreation Trail, and we have certainly gone through several iterations, but it's very interesting to hear the different ideas around the table here. So I would throw mine in as providing the mechanism and materials for people to recreate, enjoy, and explore the Ohio River, its people, and environs.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Francis, are you there?
It looks like she's still connecting to her audio.
Okay, that's fine. Is anyone else online? My piece is similar. You know, I sort of said I think enjoying the outdoors and nature on and off water is really crucial for citizens' physical and mental health. And that supporting this clean and healthy water really sort of helps river towns develop, but also builds support for this ecological restoration of our region. As we're talking today, please feel free to type any of those ideas into the chat box, because this is one of our agendas, is to start to think about our long-term structure. Anybody else want to say anything before we get started?
David, do you have to let Francis in?
Francis, she says she's on video, and her yeah, she's let in already.
Okay.
But it's not connecting for sound for her. So I'm not sure what the deal is with her, but hi, Francis. Sorry you can't talk. You can put your information in the chat. We have 8 things on our agenda. The first one was the roll call. And then the second one is we're involved in this process during this COVID time with a Rivertown Review Initiative. And we wanted to have Andrea talk a little bit about what we've done so far and some of the trials and tribulations that we have that we're facing right now.
Right. So the Rivertown Review is meant to be an interactive engagement with the communities along the Ohio River, along the ORRT. And if you recall, we put out basically a request for applications, and we got about 8 applications in. We chose 3 communities to start with, and then David took upon himself to do an additional larger community in a group of communities in southern Indiana. You are all invited to participate in any of these at any time. We do need some assistance going into some of these communities, and I'll talk about that. So we had our first one in New Richmond. We prepared for it. It went fairly well, I thought, considering we're trying to do community engagement in all new ways. That are sometimes a stretch for being community engagement. It's hard to make these kinds of personal connections, relationship connections, and get good feedback from the people when you're doing it via a Zoom call. But we wanted to plow on and get what we could and establish some type of a relationship. So the one in New Richmond I thought went really well. We did get a lot of feedback. We're processing some of that feedback now. We are accepting their homework. They were given homework because we did, one of the exercises was a brainstorming of short and long-term goals, and also we did a SWOT analysis. So we're having them rank the SWOT analysis to look at it to see what they thought of the results that came out of that. And then also rank their top 3 short and long-term goals and send those back to us with a few other questions, like what would an ideal day in your community look like for a visitor? And then any feedback they had on the process that we undertook. So we're getting those homeworks and those responses back now this week. And that happened on October 14th. We were supposed to have another one on October 16th at Rising Sun. That got canceled due to a COVID outbreak at the City Hall. So we were also supposed to have one on 10/28 in Carrollton. And I think that was the one that got switched to 10/29, and then that got canceled because some of the important stakeholders could not be there. So those are 2 that we've had canceled that we are going to try to reschedule very soon. We also have one coming up, the Southern Indiana one, that is 3 communities of Clarksville, New Albany, and Jeffersonville, I believe. That is going to take place on November 24th. We will have a meeting about that Wednesday. So with each of these communities, there's work that needs to be done beforehand. So if you are at all interested, contact myself or Russ, and we'll put you in touch with the leader of that particular community. We need to do a desktop review. It's guided, so there are questions that ask you to look at the resources that are online. What's the outward appearance of the community? How inviting is it? What kind of information can you get from their online review to participate in outdoor recreation? What it says about the Ohio River. And then we have also the need for people to go and do site visits of the communities, also guided with questions. This is without people in the community. So this is that fresh set of eyes as a visitor, maybe a first-time visitor who's never been there before. What do you see? What is noticeable to you? Either that is there or is appealing, or that isn't there, that they're missing, that could be improved upon. And then also the day of the meeting that we are doing virtually, you're welcome to sit in on those if you want to see how the process works, or if you want to provide any input. After the meetings, we are reviewing all of the information and trying to assemble it into a package that we will then review, which you could be involved in, and to provide some recommendations to the communities, some feedback that will be mutually beneficial for them and for ORRT, about their challenges, their successes, and what resources there are. So you could definitely help with that. And then in the spring, we will be doing more of these. We'll be taking on at least the next 3 that applied and putting out a proposal for or a request for applications for more communities if they want to do it. And by then we should be really good at doing it virtually, and hopefully eventually we'll be able to get out into these communities and really see what they're doing. So if you're interested in assisting with those, please let us know. And does anybody have any questions?
Just as an update, the 3 towns in southern Indiana that Andrea mentioned, my class is focusing on them from U of L, and they've done the desktop review, and they've gone through and done 3 or 4 site visits, and we're prepared to spend the first 15 minutes of that time sharing those pieces, and then do the SWOT analysis. And the interesting piece is Mr. Epperson is recruiting all the mayors and several county commissioners, and as well as a variety of outdoor enthusiasts from those 3 towns. And so it's an opportunity to sort of rank those pieces in order. And so the second thing about it is not only we're doing these this year, but we've committed ourselves to work on these next year as well. And so we have 3 towns that have requested these. And so not only can you volunteer for now, but you can volunteer for next year as well.
It really is a good way to engage those of you who are interested in being involved in the ORRT on this steering committee and beyond. It's really getting to that part about engaging communities. And I think we're providing them with a lot of really good resources that actually they could probably pay a lot of money to a consultant to get the degree of information and overview that we're providing them from all of the people that are involved. So I think it's a benefit for them.
Any questions? Once again, if you are enjoying listening, feel free to take your chat and write down your vision in there, and or feel free to write a note to Andrea and say, I really want to be involved in this. We do have several folks on here. Jack did Rising Sun. Jack, do you want to talk a little bit about Rising Sun and where we are with that?
Yeah, sure will. So I've headed up the team with Rising Sun. We're working with the Rising Sun Ohio County tourism folks. And thank you to David Rudder and some other folks who did help me out with the desktop reviews. Also Chris Lawrence and a couple of his students from Thomas More. So we've got 6 or 7 desktop reviews already in hand. Myself and my wife did a site visit, and when the weather was still pleasant, so we had a good walkabout there. Then between COVID and some weather issues, we've been unable to take it to the next steps. Unfortunately, Rising Sun and its surrounding county have been one of the hot spots for the entire state of Indiana the last 10 days or so. So next steps are to do a walkabout with some of the folks in Rising Sun. We're still hopeful we can do that before Thanksgiving, and then plan to schedule that Zoom community discussion meeting right around the same time, or hopefully no later than early December. So we just wanted to let things cool down a little bit with the virus, and then we'll be back on the ground.
You know, and the same thing goes with Carrollton. I just got a note from Misty, the director of tourism there, and the county judge and the mayor and a state representative want to be actively involved. And so we're looking now to figure out a time that's good with all the stakeholders to go forward. So it's a quite exciting time, really. You know, one of the interesting pieces is for the new Richmond project, Brewster Roads has already got them 10 new bicycle racks, and they are going to establish them in New Richmond. And another piece that I found interesting is not only this is ideas, but the National Park Service River Trails and Conservation Assistance Program has a dedicated landscape architect, and they're developing sort of a visual of one of the boat ramps that New Richmond has, that what it could look like. And so people are very appreciative. And once again, thank you, Andrea, for being involved with it and leading it up. Any other items?
Well, David, before we move on, Sylvia raised a question in the chat box about what are the next cities that are in the queue, so to speak. So I know we have a group from Southeast Indiana that submitted an application, sort of a combination of Lawrenceburg, City of Aurora, Main Street, and the Dearborn County tourism folks, as well as the Dearborn County economic development folks. So they will be one group that'll occur next spring. I forget who the other ones are.
Augusta, Kentucky has submitted a very strong one, and they are very much looking forward to it. Westport, Kentucky did not submit one, but they're interested in submitting one. Andrea, do you remember the other one?
No, I'm not sure if Boone County is thinking about that. We did have a meeting with them about how Boone County could tie in, so maybe they would submit one. I don't have those files. I only made files for the ones that we are doing.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in those, we have all the applications, which I think for our steering committee we can share if you want to, or we can put it up on some Google Drive that somebody has.
Jack, I'm willing to help with the Dearborn County, Lawrenceburg, Aurora stuff when we're ready to do that. That's a very easy lift for me. It's in region.
Great. Yeah, that'll be very helpful because that involves really two communities. So it's just take a little more effort on our team to get everybody included. But thank you, David.
David, we're back onto you now with Digital Guide and the interest in the Digital Guide to expand it beyond our scope.
Hey, David.
Hey, David, before we get on to David Rudder, this is Jerry. I just want to comment on the review that I did up at New Richmond with Brewster and how valuable it was to talk to the people that we ran into. I mean, as most of you know, Brewster does not know a stranger. And so everybody we saw, he walked up to and say, hey, how you doing? We're doing a survey with the National Park Service and just wanted to get your ideas. What do you like about New Richmond and what brings you here and how many times a week, and he's just blasted them with questions and comments and everything. And it was amazing the responses that we got. And I don't think we would have gotten the insight if you read his review on New Richmond, we would not have gotten the insight from just by walking around and looking at it ourselves. So I encourage whoever is doing the next series of reviews or whatever town you're going to be doing it in, make a huge effort to engage the people that you see there. Some of them are going to be locals. Some of them are going to be from out of town. I mean, we had a group from, where were they from? Up around Dayton, I believe. 3 generations of a family came down to New Richmond for the day. Wouldn't have known that a whole family group came down just to tour New Richmond. So I would encourage you as you do these reviews, as you're walking around these communities, make every effort to engage literally everybody you see, and listen and see what it is that they find unique or desirable about that community.
Great point, Jerry. And one of the things that Andrea and Russ are doing is they're compiling sort of a how-to book, a work booklet, and so all those ideas really come forward and get them to Andrea, because I think those in-person conversations are so crucial for understanding.
Right, and we did have a talk about making some kind of a hybrid, because the original piece that we put together was a lot of questions that you would answer yourself as you walked around town. And then there was Brewster's approach, which was to engage every person. So maybe some type of a hybrid, because not everybody is a Brewster. as far
No,
as
absolutely not. But he does rub off on you, let me tell you.
he does. I think Chris had a question too.
Yeah, just a comment. Just looking at the Rising Sun's websites and New Richmond's websites, they were different, pros and cons of both. But I'm just wondering if, when you find something that is particularly effective or you like, if you could showcase that to the other Rivertown communities as a BMP, so that New Richmond could learn some of what Rising Sun is doing and vice versa. So just how they can sort of cross-pollinate some of those great ideas that one community has.
That's exactly what our goal is and was for the summit that we were going to have, that we would engage all of these communities and share their best ideas and share their challenges to develop more of a river-wide community. And I don't know what that's going to look like when we will be able to do that summit, but that is definitely a consideration that we want these communities to work with each other and to benefit from what they've already been doing. So yeah, that's a good idea. And I think after we get through this first round, it may be easier to share what those things are. Since we've only done one so far, it's a little hard to tell. One other thing, I got an email today from New Richmond, and they want to be able to share the tools that we present, which is David Rutter and Derek Schimmel presenting the digital guide, and then the Lewis and Clark Geotourism site. And wasn't one of our follow-ups how to use those tools? Correct me if I'm wrong, David.
Derek did send out a note to everybody, sort of as a description of the tools, but no, there's not a video clip, succinct video clip that describes them for a presentation.
Okay.
One of the things, Chris, that the Carrollton folks mentioned to me is they would be interested in sort of figuring out a way to host more biodiversity information about the river, because they have the Kentucky River and the Ohio River right there, and they're just fascinated in fish, but also in sort of the macroinvertebrate life. It was an interesting conversation. And so how, as we go forward, can we offer individual communities an ecological description of their waterfront and their area? And it'd be sort of an interesting service that we could provide them.
Yeah, it sounds great. And I'm sure each local university along the stretch would love to get involved probably in their students. And so there's plenty of which we can engage. And that might be a good task for Heather's knowledge group in terms of getting a little more academic institutions involved with her group, and then we could share.
We had a fascinating discussion with the South Bank Partners, and it wasn't a Rivertown review, but it was sort of their interest in having something like that, because those 7 towns are doing are amazing, and that also came up during that discussion. They have a very large Army Corps restoration program going on right now for the entire waterfront of the 7 towns, and what is some strategies that they could use to talk about the ecology, because the Corps just takes so long to come up with their plans, and people are interested what they could do. So, the South Bank Partners is something right away. Any other points of interest or discussion? We'd like to move along, and David Rutter had a question about the digital guide, and he has 2 things really: sort of the new version of how to update and edit existing points, but also have a short discussion about the extent and who else can use it. So David, it's yours.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to do a little screen sharing here. And I'm hoping I'm going to get this set up so that I can just flip back and forth between a couple of tabs. All right, so everybody should be able to see my screen. the landing page. So we do now have the available. Anybody wants to suggest a new guide, a new point for the guide, click on that. It's going to take you to a Survey 123 survey. It has all of that information. If any of you were involved in kind of collecting data in the early phases of getting data for the guide, it's the same program, but this is laid out a little differently. And this is only for new points. So this is not for suggestions of editing. One thing I'm kind of discovering is we maybe need to provide just a little bit more guidance for when to identify something as just bike, just boat, or both. And this is based upon some points that we received from Bradenburg, Kentucky, which that's going to be the second part of what we're going to talk about with expanding the reach of the trail and the reach of the guide and how those two things interact. So you go down through again, you select your type of point. If depending upon what you select, it'll give you check boxes to identify what amenities are at that location. If it's something that doesn't have amenities, for instance, if it's a store, you're not going to get any check boxes for amenities on that. The other piece that we do have on here, well, it hasn't been added to the form yet, but we do have it set up so that on the guide itself, we can have a second website. And this came out of the conversations with the Northern Kentucky communities to, that they were requesting that the Northern Kentucky communities have as their link, their web link, the link to the trail that connects these towns, which is a good website, but it doesn't contain as much information as some of their local websites or the county tourism site that's going to have more of that information of restaurants and other interesting things within their community. So work with Brandon. We have that set up on the guide itself to be able to have a second website. We don't have it put onto the form yet. I have to get with Gabby to get that ability set in there if they would like to have a second one. Once you put in all of that information, the short description, you're limited to 255 characters. Hoping that people have an image that they can upload, because we're not going to be able to go out and collect those. At least OKI staff is not going to be able to do that. Asking them to include their name. I'm thinking we might want to have some more information, a way to contact them, whether that's an email or a phone number for the person submitting, because that's another thing as I'm reviewing a couple of points that were brought in of wanting to be able to call and ask some follow-up questions for just a couple of the points where my online review to just make sure that it's a legitimate point, some questions there. So that form is up there. I encourage you, if anybody asks you and you're talking about it, to be able to direct them to that. And that link is directly from the landing page. I'm going to leave because we didn't do anything within that, but I think I want to give some more guidance again on what the points are. So now we are going to jump over here to the guide itself. I had a conversation with Brewster a few weeks back, gotten some questions, some inquiries from it's Meade County, which is the next county down in along the Ohio River, past West Point. So give me a thumbs up if you can see the map on your screen. Okay, good. So I shared the right thing when I shared screen. Unknown to me up to that point, Meade County apparently has the longest stretch of shoreline of any of the counties, at least in Kentucky, on the Ohio River. And it was coming from folks in Brandenburg he's saying, hey, can you extend the trail on down to us? And my response to anybody asking if we can expand the digital guide, expand the trail, is that's not my decision to make. I'm not the Ohio River Recreation Trail, owner within that, and that's part of what I want to bring back to you all, and get feedback and have the steering committee kind of make some decisions on how that process works, because they can suggest points. That form is up there. Those points would get put in, and they would end up on the guide. We would populate with points, but it's that other those other features that are not going to be on there, and that's the real-time AIS, the river markers. Well, that's not totally true on the river markers, at least for Brandenburg. I'm pretty sure that our river markers do not go, like, we don't show them all the way to the Mississippi, or do we? It looks like we do not go quite all the way to the Mississippi, but we've still got quite a bit there. But the AIS data, especially right now, pretty much stops, within Louisville, and the agreement that we have with Genscape to be able to show their data would need to be amended to do that. And so, conversation Bruce and I had said, well, what if we just made this stretch down to, sorry, I'm going to get back in here to the right place, to Brandenburg and including Meade County, as kind of a first test of how we might expand this. And so, one, I want to get approval agreement from the steering committee on that. And then secondly, hearing other questions and concerns, because the other expansion that we've asked to incorporate into this, and this would be a significant expansion in terms of where the points are at, and that would be to include all of the islands for the Ohio River Wildlife Refuge, to aid and assist in their kayaking challenge to visiting those points.
Can I make a suggestion, David?
Yes.
Because this leads perfectly into our next discussion item, and we want to make sure we leave time for the other items, that because the expansion of the Ohio River Recreation Trail is really a larger decision than what right now. I'd like to propose that within the capabilities of OKI, if you want to post sites beyond the capacity or beyond the boundaries of the Ohio River Recreation Trail, that's fine with us, and maybe we want to put a little asterisk on the bottom someplace saying, the Ohio River Recreation Trail as of, 2020 goes from Port Smith to West Point, but we are hosting other points based on our capacity to put them up. And I think that is a perfect first question for the structure committee. That is our item number 4, that Andrea and Jack have agreed to share. And because what is the executive committee? What is the steering committee? What are the partners? What are the roles, and how the decisions are made? If that's okay, so for me, you have the total green light to go forward as far as you want to go, as long as we post something saying this is our designated area right now. Does anybody else have any comments or thoughts for David? And I think also your new form for adding things is just perfect. I hope it's well used. Any other thoughts, Jack or Andrea or anybody else?
I do think that since this is a tool that you have worked so hard to develop, and it is, it's really robust. And if there are other ways that you as OKI can use it, then I say go for it. I think it's not at least it seems to me like it wasn't just developed for ORRT. It's serving multiple purposes, and it should continue to serve those purposes for OKI. And
Well, I want to say this wouldn't be serving OKI because these extensions are well outside of our region.
Oh.
So it doesn't
Serving
really serve
ORRT.
OKI. It serves more Orba and that larger vision of expanding what I talked about before, of expanding up and down the river to incorporate more and more of that. So, which is one of the challenges in terms of being able to expand usability of the other aspects of the guide. So adding points, that's a quick, easy. I think we can fit that within our current mandate that I've got and approval for where I can spend staff time in doing that and maintaining it. But to really fully incorporate them into the trail, I think we're going to have to identify some other funding sources to pay for that GIS time.
Down the road.
So,
Anything
and
else?
that was kind of this is next door. It should be an easy extension to be able to add points.
I'm going to turn the show over to Jack and Andrea to talk a little bit about, we have an upcoming meeting, January 11th. What are we doing and why are we doing it? And how are we doing it?
Say what, I'll jump in first, and then Andrea, maybe you can help fill in the gaps a little bit. But we would like to hold a sort of a single purpose meeting in January. We've identified January 11th from 12 noon to 2 or 2:30 to have a team meeting of the Ohio River Recreation Trail Steering Committee and focus on organizational development discussion items. And what Andrea and I plan to do to prepare for that meeting and to help you prepare for that meeting is do a little work over the next probably 30 to 45 days as time permits, and put together an agenda and probably put together some things that we get out to the committee members in advance, things for you to think about, probably typical things like a SWOT analysis and some other planning type of techniques. But the goal of this meeting is really do a much deeper dive on what this organization should look like, what it looks like now, what it should look like in the future, what's our purpose. All organizations go through multiple phases in their development. It's often referred to as forming, storming, norming, and performing. And I would say we're definitely in the forming stage and probably doing a lot of storming. I think what David Rudder just alluded to is he's getting questions to expand his scope of the digital guide beyond our original footprint. How do we feel about that as an organization? Is that where we should spend our time and effort and resources, as an example? And there's many other examples. We're into these Rivertown reviews that are becoming fairly labor intensive, to be quite candid. And we're fortunate to have the support from Andrea and Russ, at least hopefully for the next 12 to 16 months. I'm not sure how long we can hang on to these guys.
24.
So it's really important for us to, as a group, as a steering committee, to identify where we're going. And that's the kind of the high level approach. I'm going to be sort of leaning on Andrea for her expertise in organizational development, where she's helped other organizations. And maybe that's where I'll hand it off to you, Andrea, to think about what we might be doing in January.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I think that this, we've talked about it. We've even talked about it within the context of these meetings. And I think that we're seeing ORRT grow in ways that, is it sustainable? I mean, these are questions that, excuse me, that we're asking. Is it sustainable for the 3 retired guys to maintain this kind of structure? And what it is that that you hope to achieve, how you're going to achieve that, how valuable, what are your areas of focus? Because lately it seems, at least to Russ and I, that we're grabbing onto anything and everything that comes your way. And if we could be a little bit more focused about the direction we're heading, I think it would help it to make more sense. These Rivertown reviews are a really good way to engage communities and to build out the ORRT. But like Jack said, they are labor intensive. Each one of those is like a little project in and of itself that we're all having to undertake. And part of what Russ and I talk about is that we want to, when we're done with our project, which won't be for at least another year, that this organization is in a place to move forward effectively, sustainably, strategically, all of those great words. But with input from the people who are on this call and other stakeholders that are very important to this. You know, I looked back through some of the materials that I have, and there have been times when you had a mission, a vision, a structure even. I was surprised to see that. So how are you utilizing that structure? And now it's maybe just a time to revisit that and see if that structure still works, how we can engage more people, if you want to engage more people, and how to move it forward if there's some things we're not thinking about or that we should be paying more attention to. So Jack and I will be talking a lot more, and we do hope to get some things out to you to do some pre-work before then so that we can use our time effectively in January. You know, ideally, we would like to get people together for a whole day retreat to talk about all of this and include some fun, but that just isn't practical right now. So we're doing what we can given the circumstances, and we'll try and make the best out of it. So, you know, I think that every month we have this call, and there's people on here that I haven't met yet. And how are we engaging these people who show up every month? You know, Sylvia's here every single month, and she's always putting questions in the chat. So how can we capture that and utilize? I think these people are showing up because they want to do something, or they want to be involved with this. So how can we better engage the people that we do have coming, and how can we engage others and be more focused on what we're doing to be more effective? Any comments, questions?
I would say if everyone would mark down on their calendar, January 11th, I believe that's the second Monday of the month rather than our first Monday typical meeting. And if you could carve out a couple of hours, 12 to 2 or so, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have my calendar for next year yet, so I don't know about the rest of you.
Thank you very much. I think it will be a valuable exercise, and I think it'd be a good thing for us. Thanks.
So we teed that up for the purposes of you thinking about it. You know, think about that. We will send you some exercises and some information, but be thinking about what your ideas are for the future of this organization too, and how you want to be involved.
That first activity we did where people talked about their vision of what they would like it to be, you know, that's coming together for a consensus vision is part of it for sure. So thanks for all your input. Here's another invitation, and as many people know, there is this Ohio River Basin Alliance plan that's moving forward. That's quite a complicated process that was created by the Army Corps of Engineers, now is managed by the Ohio River Basin Alliance. There's 6 working groups that are meeting currently. I am involved with one of them, the recreation group. Several of us are on that already. Jack and David Rudder for sure. Chris Lawrence is on the education and knowledge work group. And let's see. But it's an interesting crew of people. And if anybody wants more information on it, you're more than welcome to give me a shout. There is a fair amount of overlap in a lot of ways of the two groups, the Ohio River Recreation Trail and this group. The interesting piece, Russ did a survey and is now up to 110, I think 110 water trails in the Ohio River Basin, which we are one of. And so that's the number they've added a little bit from West Virginia. And so it's just an interesting deal. We talked a little bit about Mr. Victor Elam with the islands in the Ohio River National Wildlife Refuge. And a group of us from Louisville, Victor is on the Recreation Working Committee, and a group of us are going up to Manchester this Saturday. It's supposed to be 75 degrees and sunny. We're taking a day trip, and we're starting off Victor's Ohio River Kayak Challenge, which he has challenged. People went up through the National Park Service, and we get a little award when you visit 22 islands and take a selfie in front of one of the signs. Well, Victor's going to join us, and so this is our first 2 islands. That's our intent to do on Sunday. But also you'll have a chance to meet some of the other people on this recreation committee if you wish to join us. And that's, we're leaving Louisville early, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. And so we'll get in touch with us if you want to do that. The only other item really on the agenda is just an update for folks. As part of the Rivertown Review in for Jeffersonville, Clarksville, and New Albany, we have a public display of student work as well as of the Ohio River Recreation Trail at the Louisville Free Public Library. They've given us their library gallery, which is quite large, called the Bernheim Gallery, and it's a 90-foot long wall that's a painted canvas. You can put anything on it you want to, and we're having a picture of the river painted from Portsmouth down to West Point, and all of the river towns will be on it. And then we have photographs from 1893, a man named Mr. Thwaites. He took a photograph of each town, or each day he took a photograph. We're putting those photographs geographically appropriate. And then John Nation and Joe Wallach has taken photographs of the same area. So we'll have those modern day photographs. And then on the other wall, we'll have a feature of the Clarksville and New Albany and Jeffersonville, along with the Army Corps. And we have a big place here called Jeff Boat that they just closed down, on, a big inland boat building facility. But we got a beautiful model of the last packet boat they built there in 1913. And so this is just a beautiful model. So we'll have a whole series of models of the river. One of the things that's sort of for us here, and there's no work for anybody to do, but besides me, I'm going to contact each one of the river towns and get 100 photographs or 100, just this like right here, brochures. So we have a big brochure rack. And so we'll have, tourist brochures for each of the river towns from Portsmouth on down to West Point. And this exhibit, there's a soft opening on the same day, actually, as we have our Rivertown Review on November 24th. So it'll all be done by then, 3 weeks from now. And it'll stay open till an undetermined amount of time. The library has said that it will have at least 2 months of fully operational time. Right now, interestingly, the main audience is homeless people, because the city of Louisville has made an arrangements through the library that if you don't have a computer, you don't have a internet line, you can sign up, and they have about 500 people a day going into the main public library. So the people who are going to be viewing our exhibit are the non-traditional Ohio River rats. You know, they're sort of the so it'll be an interesting opportunity. So I just wanted to share that. It's it starts November 24th. And that's about what we have for our agenda, unless if there's anything good for the order. I did have comments down here on the bottom, and we do have several people. You know, you just sort of want to go on around and any thoughts that we should be considering between now and December? Well, it looks like we are good to go. I hope people have an opportunity to get out on the water. And if you want to join us on this Saturday and be the first people to sort of start looking at doing, you know, because not just to let everybody know, no one has done all 22 islands yet. And so you could be the first person to do all 22 islands. And that's a lifetime achievement to visit each one of the islands. And, you know, I just want to sing Victor's praises because they've gone ahead and built a new kayak canoe ramp on every single one of their islands. And so it's a good thing for the Ohio River recreational sport.
David, can you send out a link to that effort? Because if those are National Wildlife Refuges, that wouldn't be National Park Service. That'd be Fish and Wildlife Service.
That's right, yes. It's U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, islands in the Ohio River National Wildlife Refuge, and they go from Pittsburgh down to Manchester. Even though in talking with them, I thought their scope went down to Manchester only, but Victor told me it goes down to Cincinnati. So they are enabled to buy any island between Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. And there's 2 in process right now of being purchased.
There aren't any more in the Ohio until after you get past Cincinnati from Manchester.
Well, you know, he did not say if they had to be, you know, they could be man-made. So we could create a island right off of the Thomas More Biological Station and create it as a nature preserve there. Just a thought. Man-made islands.
Well, they are going to detonate Beckjord here in the month of November, and so maybe an artificial reef.
They're making an artificial reef in the Ohio River in November.
Well, there's going to be a power plant they're taking down.
Oh.
And I'm from Cleveland, and they did that to the old Municipal Stadium. When they took it down, it is out in Lake Erie and made a great artificial reef that's teeming with life. I have to run to a 1 o'clock online class, but I enjoyed the updates. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining, and we'll see everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Chris.
Bye.